with experiment, it's wrong. And that simple statement is the key to science. It doesn't make a difference how beautiful your guess is. It doesn't make a difference how smart you are who made the guess or what his name is. If it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong.
Yeah, look, they said that I couldn't do it, so I went and did it. W's only, you know I've been winning. Top of the world, the globe is spinning. If you know, I've been on a what? Mission. Go. Okay, let's get it. Got a little time on my hands like a wristwatch. I don't got time for the brakes and the pit stop. Race through the gridlock, take it like Chris Rock. Right to the chin, still win. Heavy metals like Slipknot. Got the drive and I got tunnel vision. I just hit my stride the way I run the business. I've been making paper like I'm Dunder Mifflin. See the end game, I got one division. Look, I don't ever bother with a critic. Hit him with a chronicle of Riddick. Boom, bottle full of Ritalin. I hit him with a little bit of riddle me this, riddle me that. My bad, fell asleep at the gas. No time to wait though. Elon Musk, I'm trying to bankroll. New Tesla just cause I say so. Electric whip like Ivan Van Gogh. I just did it. W's only, you know I've been winning. Top of the world, the globe is spinning. If you know, I've been on a mission. Okay, let's get it.
I've been on a mission like totally spice. I'm a baddie, she bad, but she totally nice. Nails are blue and her toes feel like white. They complete me, jar dat is zo voor mijn lijk. He knew it for sure, but he left with a...
What is up, party? It's gonna be a fun one. All right, we're gonna do. I will have the open panel up. I wanted to kind of go over something having to do with the whole climate change discussion. It was in touch with a lot of things I've been hearing, a lot of things that were said in the last stream. Someone had brought up certain states being against geoengineering and being against some of the insurances that came with weather modification in these states. I told you guys getting ready for a presentation type situation, so it's going to be kind of bits and pieces of that, kind of more of a get you kind of caught back up to what I think and how I, sorry about that, let me get that turned off, how I think about these situations and why I'm coming up with my conclusion. So this first part of the live stream is kind of going to be more of like a look into how I'm researching these things that I have, things that help me get to my conclusions. I am watching the chat, so I will be able to say what's up and answer any questions or comments that you guys have about it. Like I said, I'm going to open the panel up, not at the very second. It does exist. It is around. There it goes. Put that up. You guys, it actually kind of looks like I'm talking now. Let me do this while we're doing. I always forget. Fix the panel so it's good to go. Now it'll kind of look like I'm talking a little bit. There we go. Okay, so some of the things I wanted to show or specifically talk about was a lot of the states currently are doing a lot of talking about not being on board with weather modification projects, geoengineering research, and those actually are kind of fall under two different categories in this whole actual conversation. Just understand when they're going against weather modification, these are primarily geoengineering research projects, whether it be offshore, in the sky, on the ground, doesn't matter. It's a lot of untested research or untested speculations on how these things will work. And a lot of states are kind of getting the idea that are kind of getting to the realization that it's either going to be a money grab or a far-fetched idea of how these things work. And again, like I said, I'm here to show you why I come to these conclusions. But before we start that, go ahead and like and share this so everyone knows that I'm live right now, because they're still getting used to it. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and open up the panels that I need. Close that out. Nice big one right here. So I got to get to it so I can see what I'm reading. Okay, so like I was talking about a minute ago, one of the main things that were talked about was weather modification insurance. And one of the things that I live streamed about this a few years ago was the solar geoengineering insurance that was being proposed to all the states. What was funny about this that I thought was crazy was with the stipulation of this insurance, you would think that each state would buy the insurance, and if something happened due to research or geoengineering projects in general started, if anything happened critical, whether it be natural disasters, haha, or anything to do with, the state would be covered, right? It'd be able to be helped out through aids and other situations that would be set up if this went through. So what this was right off the bat was, you see is here, it's a it's a parametric climate risk insurance, a tool to facilitate agreements about deployment of solar geoengineering. Now, that first part, it's very telling, and it does really it's a really good description of what this is going to be about. One of the main things you're going to notice is that this isn't solely to protect a state who gets the insurance. It is to protect a state who gets the insurance and is neighboring a state that doesn't. Now, you would think insurance is a way to cover yourself if anything bad happens, but this is literally a way for whatever organization, agency, we'll say, government agency, does okay this when it does happen. What will end up happening is they'll need the approval of each state to do any of the work that any of these projects in those states. If the states don't agree to this, what ends up happening is that they don't get it. If a neighboring state gets any of these solar or any of these geoengineering, we'll say, projects going on, and the state below it doesn't, and any of the effects of the testing or missions that are or projects that are going on happen and affect the lower state that didn't agree to it, the insurance covers them. Doesn't really so much cover the state that's actually going for it, because in their eyes it's going to work. So, like I said, that's how that is. What's up, Crow? Crow says I'm not against any attempt for weather. Billion people hardly are able to change it. If you won't make a difference, not negative ones at least. That's the scary. Ooh, that comment is exactly why I'm doing this, Crow. So let's get one thing straight. That I hope, I really hope. I'd like to see in the chat if anyone disagrees with this. This is by far one of the easiest statements to make now that I've after all these years. We can control weather. There's no doubt about it. Whether it's cloud seeding, whether it's hail suppression, whether it's means of tornado and hurricane suppression, you name it, there probably is a method in which they use something to try to control. Full control, no. Control, yes. The issue would be this. With 8 billion people on this earth, and the realization that you can have some type of control over what's going on, gives you a very conceited idea of what's possible. And so what ends up happening is you go from a very small scale, we'll say something like cloud seeding over a small city, and you start thinking sky's the limits, so to speak, haha. Then you decide that, well, my state, we'll use California as a perfect example. My state needs more water. Well, if we can make it rain, we can fill aquifers, we can make it more possible to live here. And we won't have to buy all this we won't have to truck water in from other states. Well, then what ends up happening is they ramp up the cloud seeding. The cloud seeding produces, these are not real numbers, is in the ballpark type things. That one annual year, California then gets 20% more rain. I'm pretty sure any of you that lived in California remember when they got a lot of rain, what happens after no rain? Mudslides, flooding. It's a very bad actual situation. because what they're not really explaining to you is the in-depth ways that cloud seeding affects environment and affects our cities, etc. Right, and that's just small scale. Once you start talking about geoengineering, let me make this very clear: it is no longer small. It is no longer, will it rain in my city? It's, will the wet season occur in my city? Will the summertime happen in my city? These are more of the scopes of what geoengineering actually talking about. So let me get back to this. So you guys understand like what I was saying about what this insurance for geoengineering actually covers. And for anyone that understands and knows me talking about this, you've heard me say David Keith 1,000 times. He is the one that is proposing this insurance. I'm going to talk about him a little bit more after this one because there's quite a few tabs that I have open to look at. And again, this will all tie into the climate change talk. This all ties into the solutions and the bad solution methods they want to use, the whole nine. And then again, all rounds up to whether or not this is something we can actually fix, something we need to adapt to, or something they're just using as another way to make money. So let's actually dive into what I have to show you guys so you guys can actually see this. So like we were talking about the insurance and what it would cover, this abstract is going to, it's all I'm going to read. It's going to make it really basic. So states will disagree about deployment of solar geoengineering technologies that would reflect a small portion of incoming sunlight to reduce risks of climate change. And in most disagreements will be grounded in conflicting interests. States that object to deployment will have many options to oppose it. So states favoring deployment will have a powerful incentive to meet their objections. Objections rooted in rooted in opposition to the. Almost knocked over my microphone. Okay, so unacquitted consequences of deployment may be met through compensation. Yet climate policies inhospitable to compensation via liability. We propose that material or parametric climate risk insurance might be useful to facilitate agreement on solar geoengineering deployment. So basically, so far, what it's saying is some states will agree to this, and the ones that agree are going to do everything it takes to make sure things work out, and they do what they need to do to meet the standards of what's going to happen. But this is primarily to be a policy towards the states that don't agree with the geoengineering thing. So outlook. Provide evidence. Okay, no, so here's the thing. This is an Outlook article, and let me. So anyone who wants to get more in depth into it, just so everyone knows, the links that I'm putting in, they will be. And actually, you guys, right this second. They will be. I'm gonna put them in my description. But like for this one, it's pretty simple. Put in solar geoengineering insurance, and it'll pop up. It is an Outlook article. This isn't something that is set in stone by no means. This would be the equivalent of someone going, "I have a great idea," and then other people going, "Well, there are some ethical issues with your great idea," and them going, "Well, this is my idea to solve those ethical issues that would be proposed if we did these things." So yes, Sasha, in that respect, you're right, 100%. Let's see where I was. This would be especially relevant in cases where disagreements are rooted in various levels of trust in climate model predictions of solar geoengineering effectiveness and risks. Um, negligible negation over the pricing, negotiations over the pricing in terms of the parametric risk pool would make divergent judgments if explicit and quantitative. Can't even say that word. Quantitatively, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It would basically even the playing field for places that didn't use the insurance and make it easier for the ones that did make the insurance not lose it all when when shit really hits the fan. That's all I got from that. The reason this part, hang on, I wanted to go back, and this is why I was muttering over it because I read this and I wanted to stop, but I didn't. Right here, this part. All right here. It says, this would be explicitly relevant in cases where disagreements are rooted in varying levels of trust in climate model predictions of solar geoengineering effectiveness and risks. That's very important for one big reason. If you, and again, don't take my word for it, go look it up. If you go look up predictive models for solar geoengineering, there's no great outcome to it. None at all. I haven't seen a model that has any good outcome within the next 100 years, so to speak. Make it very clear, I'm not against geoengineering in the fix-it attitude of this. I'm against it in the idea of posing things in the guides of fixing climate change, when in reality they're not. And again, this is why I wanted to make the idea of who David Keith is very important. Let me get this. So kind of went through that. I know there's some other important stuff on here I wanted to get to. Find it real quick. I'll go ahead and open up the panel, but you guys got to give me a second. Yeah, it on here. Okay, so this was basically just in reference to something we had talked about last week, or someone had brought up last week, and I wanted to bring up, but there's a lot more. So now for the fun part. The fun part that I usually get a lot of criticism for, because I have a very one-sided idea of how this is. I want to make it clear. What we're talking about now isn't to do with geoengineering. Okay, this is we're now going to go back to the fight for renewables, the fight to get rid of fossil fuels, the propaganda that we're doing things to solve the issues when in reality I personally know we're not. Okay, so I want to read this because I want this to be something that's implanted in your guys' head, something that you guys hear and understand is a thing. Okay, so typed in carbon capture CO2 sold in the United States. For most of you that understand what we're going to get into now, it's carbon sequestration. This is the means of capturing CO2 from power plants, industrial plants, you name it. Anything that produces CO2 and the industrial scope of what we're talking about, commercial marketing and everything, they are instructed now, this is now a standard practice where they're to capture as much of the emissions that they would exhaust into the atmosphere as possible, which means they've added scrubbers, they've added multiple scrubbing systems that basically pull out the emissions out of the exhaust system that would emit it into the sky. Now, on the face value, I think this is great, right? This is the equivalent of having a straight pipe exhaust and having a catalytic converter and filters to filter that exhaust somewhat, right? I mean, off the top of the head, it is a good idea. It is a good thing to have these things in there. Now, what they are selling this stuff to do is literally be a literally trying to promote it as something that's going to save climate change, right? We're going to get to renewables. We're going to not only going to get to renewables, but we're going to get to a lower standard where fossil fuels are almost to a none, where we're not using them anymore. And I think that's far-fetched, especially when you hear about the standards of that they're trying to do this in 2030, 2050. We have examples where it does happen, where they do meet these standards. They do get to almost a net zero carbon footprint. Um, Not, it's impossible to be zero, but close to it. But these are really small countries, really small populated areas. We're not talking about China's. We're not talking about United States. We're not even talking about Europe, all of Europe, right? So let's understand that that scope is very important in this. Um, so when we're talking about capturing carbon dioxide for the means of pulling it out of the emission, out of the atmosphere. Now, what I have up kind of seems misleading to what I'm talking about, but it says facilities using carbon capture usually can't sell large amounts of CO2 in commercial markets. But in the United States, thanks to tax credits, they get $85 a ton for burying it. So what is this burying it? I'm going to go back to here. Let me show you what they mean by burying it. Don't need this for right now. Okay, so this is what they mean by burying it. There are two means of what they call sequestration. So in sequestration, what has happened is, and this is going to be the best way of explaining what carbon sequestration is, carbon capture. Imagine fracking. They drill, they find pockets of gases, and they suck them up and utilize them. Well, in the reverse aspect of this, when you capture CO2, so like in this picture, you see at the top of the screen, you see the power plants, the oil rigs, and everything. What ends up happening is they will capture this stuff. They then pump this into mind you, this is a gas. They pump it into a truck or pump it to a really big holding tank. That holding tank is then put under immense pressure. I don't know the exact number, but that pressure then turns it into a liquid. That truck is then transferred to a truck. That truck goes to a site that's somewhere in America, or in this instance, America. I can show you that real quick. This would be the locations over the world, but we're going to be specifically talking about the United States. All those dots represent whether it be land carbon sequestration, where they do what I'm explaining right now, and then the other one is the water carbon sequestration. For what they do, so they truck carbon dioxide, which is pressurized in a tanker, which is at this point a liquid. They then find a area that has a rock content, a base, where they can find fractures a mile or 2 miles below the surface, and they inject that carbon dioxide back into the ground. There are many risks to this. I'm not going to get too much into it, otherwise I'll go down 1,000 different paths. But if you look it up, you'll understand that it's still not a known science. Keeping the carbon dioxide underground is still it's still very unknown on how to keep it. What is the amount of time you could sequester the carbon dioxide underground before it finds its own way back up, which is the dangerous part. This is the risk part. I'm not sure if you noticed it, but all those dots in the United States, or shit, if you're in around any of the other dots in any other countries, understand this. Because there's no known way to capture carbon dioxide underground for any known amount of time, that means that wherever those dots are, if there were to be a carbon dioxide leak, we're not talking 1,000 metric tons, because that's what happens typically in natural situations. There's a story in Russia that this happens, where natural CO2 comes up out of the ground and wipes up over a village and basically kills everyone because it wipes out all the oxygen, so you suffocate without even knowing you're suffocating at first. Well, in America and near all these dots, there are millions, billions of tons of carbon dioxide being stored underground. It doesn't need to be under your feet. It need if you're I know one of them is in Colorado, near Denver. It doesn't need to be in city limit Denver. It could be 50 miles off, and a bad wind gust could wipe out all of Denver if that sequestration were to fail. And those are the type of things that are I am thinking about, and I like to get out there because they don't. If you look up the basic information on this stuff, or you hear what is mainstream now, which I am very surprised in the 4 years that I've been gone. I'm very surprised that mainstream does talk about geoengineering and weather modification, as in cloud seeding, almost on the regular, but they're not talking about the real stuff that needs to be talked about. Yes. Okay. So that's a great point, Sasha. So Sasha said, or let me go back to this real quick. Back to that. What you said is Sasha said, reducing production and preserving natural sequestration like rainforest and most is the most proven. Absolutely, and that falls into the what I was talking about before when I was saying. I'm sorry, I was gotta focus. Okay. When I was saying that there are means that I do agree with, mainly for that reason alone. Um, Things like you're saying, where we have rainforest, we stop cutting down so damn much. We plant more. There's a method called afforestation. Um, all these things are great ideas. Again, the majority of geoengineering projects that could take place to fix things, there's a majority of them that are wonderful ideas. Problem is that all, and I repeat, all the good ideas, the ones with the least amount of risk, the ones with the least amount of gain, I'm sorry, the most amount of gain, they take 100 years. They take 200 years. They take a long time to really take effect. And that's the other problem. We're not trying, the idea that we're trying to fix it is wrong. The idea that we're going to reverse it is ridiculous. Right now, what we're doing is we're trying to fix the F up. And the problem is instead of trying to fix long term, we're trying to do it now. What happens when the people that are running this shit realize they fucked up and they want to fix it and not die being the asshole? Still another selfish idea of how this thing works and the wrong way of going about it. But so let me do this. I was gonna put panel panel chat link. There you go. Panel. In there, and I will move on to the next link I wanted to show you because that was like I was saying. I told you guys if I go talk too much about one specific thing, I'll do a rabbit hole on that. Next one, make sure it's up there. Yes. Okay, so like I said, it said I looked up, how much is sold, um, and this all ties in. This is very important that you guys see this. So I want you to notice this one. This is very important. Carbon engineering. Carbon engineering is actually owned by David Key, the guy that's trying to solve all these issues with carbon dioxide, methane, the whole nine. So that's one. There's a lot. I mean, and it's $1 billion company now. But like I said, these are these ones I want you to really take notice of first. NRG Energy, another one. So you guys know NRG Energy is an American energy company headquartered in Austin, Texas, and was formerly the wholesale arm of Northern States Power Company, which became Xcel Energy, but became independent in 2000. NGR Energy is involved in energy generation and retail electricity. They're a big oil and gas company. What is up, Sasha? It's been a long time.
How are you doing?
Doing good, man. You sound all grown up now. Wow. How you
It
been,
has
man?
certainly been a while.
It has.
Nice to see you
Yeah,
back
so
in the game.
trying to get used to it again. It's so weird. Uh, it's fun though. I'm happy I'm back. Happy I get to talk about good stuff. Now, you were I saw you commenting in the chat. What was what I was saying you felt was wrong, or are you just adding to what I was saying?
Oh, I just wanted to make sure there was clarity around that Outlook article because, like, if you go to the second page, it's talking specifically about it's just using solar geoengineering as sort of like a gateway to talk about parametric insurance because it thinks that it's interesting. It says outright, scientific knowledge about geoengineering remains limited. Pros technologies have not been developed and debates are at an early stage. So it's
Yes.
solely using it therefore, not as like, hey, this is happening. It's just this might happen. Let's talk about this cool insurance thing I'm interested in.
But that's where I see the problem at because the way they are weighed, and again, this is specifically David Keith, the Harvard University thing. They are they're trying to dot all their P's and Q's, and I see a lot of holes in those um, because it's not being presented this way to the public. Like the public knows geoengineering is talked about, but they're not where the risks aren't being talked about.
Yes, and the that article, however, is not really a discussion of risks. It is more a discussion of how do we insure against any risks that do exist.
Yes, and again, that's the problem because that article, what became a mainstream article. But if you Google search and look for a mainstream article about the predicted models that show negative effects, you won't find those in any mainstream conversation. So to
That's
me,
also
it
because
just
that
looks like
research is very limited.
yeah, but 100%. But the problem is why not talk about that instead of jumping ahead to making everyone feel comfortable with something they know nothing about? How do you propose an insurance for something you don't even understand the risks of it enough?
That's a fair speculation. Part of it is just the research game. Like they're under pressure to publish papers, um, being professors at a school, and so part of it is just, hey, we have this cool insurance developed by the WHO, new model. What's something that hasn't been really discussed that we could tack this on? Climate. What are some risks around climate? There's this new thing being talked about. Let's just tack it onto that. The majority of the article is discussion of parametric insurance, and they just needed a vector through to analyze that.
But the problem with that is, I would agree with that if it was like a legislation article about a legislation policy they're talking about. But this is indirect with David Keith's solar radiation geoengineering project. It is specifically for that.
Yeah, I agree with you that science communication is often waning.
Now, now, if someone came out with an insurance for people that liked running marathons on busy freeways, wouldn't that just seem illogical just to begin with? That's what it feels
Well,
like.
he's not necessarily proposing. He's not necessarily implementing insurance. He's just using solar geoengineering as an example where parametric risk exists, meaning the risk to one state is different to the risk to another state, whereas in most insured things, like, for example, hurricanes, the risk is pretty evenly distributed based on where the hurricane hits. Um, it's going to it's not going to affect one state in unexpected ways based on how it affects another state.
But it does. So, and we're seeing effects of it. Um, not of the insurance, just of how this would work. So obviously, there's zero geoengineering evidence that this is the case because of geoengineering, but this is evidence of climate change. Recently, California got its first hurricane that actually hit land, and I think it was like 30, 40 years or something like that. Um, it is just not common. They not only got hit, but then they received two others. I think they downgraded to tropical storms. But if this is not how it is to everyone listening, if they had started this geoengineering and suddenly California got a hurricane, this insurance basically would go, you can't blame us, but we'll help you.
And that's very important when looking at risk models and like countries trying to do work to combat climate change. Because a lot for, and I suspect this isn't, he targets it at the states, but this would be more useful in like countries that don't have huge budgets and deficits to draw from, where they get a they take out insurance against like climate initiatives. Say it is just planting trees, and they're trying to and like reducing their reliance on coal. That would be an important like thing for them to do. And then if from what you described something unexpected happens, they should they would still want to be protected in some sense
Yeah.
because they're at
Well,
least
and
trying.
yeah, and that's a really important part. What you said was very important. Um, what I just read is a very small scale proposal on an initial on something, and in the state level is it just being used to basically weed out the crap that doesn't need to be there and then add the stuff that needs to be there because realistically, and I was saying this earlier when we were talking geoengineering, this is big boy stuff, big scale. If this were to start geoengineering, this insurance, this would be a world thing. This would be what countries use. Small countries within on continents would use that don't have the means to be prepared for this kind of stuff or throw in on it, basically put the money in on it.
And he does discuss that a little bit in the second paragraph where he says there there's some risks depending on if it's implemented or there's projected to be different risks if it's implemented more uniformly versus more localized.
Yes. Off my screen, but I'm trying to put it back on. But wait, you remember when I used to talk about this guy and the solar geoengineering thing? Because everything he's doing is a buildup for that.
David Keefe.
Yeah.
Physicist.
Bro. What's up, Crow? How you doing, sir? Yeah, because trying to find a pair of boxes.
Hello, sorry, I was on mute. Thank you for having me.
No worries, no worries. Yeah, like in the third page, it's talking about like disagreements about deployment. Reasons countries might object to proposed deployment of solar geoengineering may be useful, sort into the two bordered categories, interests and value. Okay. Oh, so this is this is it's on the fourth page bottom. A solar geoengineering parabolic sovereign risk pool. So this is the part where any countries, we'll just say countries that buy into this, they a piece of what they're buying into would be what covers the the countries that don't buy into this. So almost regardless, to me, regardless, and correct me if I'm wrong, it just sounds like if you don't buy into it, you're still covered. There's a
Yeah. Well,
go ahead.
where are you reading this?
Page 4 at the bottom, the paragraph. It goes to page 4 or 5, but bottom of
Oh,
page
yeah.
4 it starts.
I think I'm missing something. What do you mean by insurance? Is like if something happened, this state or this country receive some fund or compensation?
Yeah, so
Yes.
this is this would be under the proposed idea that they start doing geoengineering. We'll use we'll say like United States decides to do that they are 100% on board with geoengineering in this method that we're talking about, solar SRM, solar radiation management, and Mexico or Canada isn't. They don't agree to it. They're not down for it. And any effect that the geoengineering has, if it affects Canada negatively, this insurance, uh, the part we're on right now, is basically saying that everyone that bought into it will put into money into a pool that will cover those negative effects for Canada. And then any negative effects that happen in the United States, that insurance would cover them, obviously.
So, funny thing about that. Yeah, and sorry, jumping in with a bunch of anecdotes. Um, so that would operate much like car insurance, where if you're like, I don't know about these newfangled cars, and they're like, oh, it's okay if I hit you, I'm insured, I'll pay you out. Even if you don't have your own insurance. Funny thing about the Harvard Solar Geoengineering Research Program, as far as I'm able to tell, um, all those initial researchers, like David Keefe, have all left.
Oh no, he's still there.
No, he's not there anymore. If you go to their website, he's no longer part of the.
I have another question about this insurance. Uh, well, if something bad happened to Canada, how do we distinguish if this is like an act of nature or this is because the geoengineering program?
So that's what the article is discussing. Because it's unknown, they developed a new model called parametric insurance about how do we deal with unknown causes.
Oh, okay. Now I get.
And to me, that's an issue as well because that I'm not sure if you remember you talking about the M mod, Sasha? It's weather the treaty they made for using weather modification as a weapon. It's one of those
I
things
don't.
where so it's one of those things where like cloud seeding and all that where the science they present the science as it works, but
Mhm.
anytime you start talking about the negative effects of it, it they start using those numbers to show you that you can't really be too sure it was us though. And I think that's one of the biggest issues with this idea of using any of these methods, because we don't know enough about them. That if something bad happens, you're gonna go, nature. It was gonna happen anyway. Because there have been situations where they've done research on things and it has had a very negative effect. Whether I think the specific one I'm talking about was hurricane suppression, back in the 40s, early 50s, where they seeded a hurricane over Florida and it actually went to like a category 5 and did billions of dollars in damage. It was so significant that they actually had to come out in the media and say, we were researching hurricane suppression and it didn't work.
Yeah, I suspect one of the issues with that would be it's very hard to target. Because, like, you can
Yes.
see a hurricane, but that's often going to end up in Florida. And a lot of the places that are U.S. strategic interests aren't constantly getting hit by hurricanes. Yeah, this David Keefe's research group hasn't published anything since 2002, and his bio uses the past tense now.
Where he was on here last time I looked.
Yeah, Joshua Horton Reed's former research director, Geoengineering Science, Technology, and Public Policy Program. Keefe Reed's former professor of a couple things.
I wonder who he's working with now, because he still is a very big proponent for the solar radiation management.
Current affiliation, professor and founding director of Climate Systems Engineering. He's at Chicago now.
Oh. I gotta start going to their news web. Fuck. Not a physicist. Yeah, see, like I said, I gotta go. A lot of research. I
He
didn't
was an
even know he was.
applied physics professor, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go through some of his publications on here, because man, he has some really far-fetched ideas of how things work and how to get to things.
Yeah, his PhD is in experimental physics.
More sense now.
Does anyone know something that's called the Dyson sphere?
Yes.
Okay, so scientists talk about it as if it's like in our grasp and it's something that could be done.
Hello
And
there.
it's like, hello? And
I'm I know. I'm new here. And by the way, this is my first time I ever used meetgoogle.com.
Cool. Welcome to the channel.
Yes. I'm going on new panels, by the way. I am the Looney Tunes man.
Want to talk about what we're talking about, or
The truth. Climate Scam 101. I mainly stuff old school cartoons on my streams.
anyway? Uh, so welcome back. Like, that's what happens when you put the link out there. Yeah, so
It looks like
those-
he's put most of his energy into carbon removal.
yes.
Because I
He
think they kind of
also,
realized pretty quickly that solar geoengineering is far too
but they're still
difficult.
but they're still pushing for it though. They still talk about it in
They still do,
legislation.
yeah, still doing some research.
And because of that, and that was actually a perfect segue because um, David Keith, I know for sure, owns Carbon Engineering. Carbon
Yep.
Engineering is a company that basically is the leading company of solar or of carbon capture. Um, they this, they are a big proponent to the carbon sequestration game. So I have it on my
I have a
screen for what's up. Go ahead.
I was saying I have a feeling that all of this is just a political scam and someone who's getting benefit from this. It's like they go to the certain politicians, they say, okay, I'll make this factory. It is supposed to do so and so for the environment, and you can support me. And those uh, what do you call it, climate change lunatics will give you their votes. So this is what I have a feeling about it. I'm not sure if
Well, here's the so it's in my opinion, it's not so much about the political side of it. Um, if anything, it's they don't want it to be political. I think the last thing they want is political because one of the biggest things that's going on is the obviously is the push for renewable and getting rid of fossil fuel. The problem is that majority of the government is making a lot of money off those fossil fuels right now. A lot of fucking money.
It's I just looked into the research that the Energy Chicago's doing, and the Energy Policy Institute he's leading now. They haven't published anything about geoengineering since 2020. So they seem to have shifted their focus as well, even though he still kind of likes it. The kind of
Yeah.
place he's working at now is not as on board.
Oh, okay. That's shit. That's a good thing in my book. Shit. That just means I have to start focusing on the other geoengineering.
Yep. They published quite a bit about carbon sequestration, but they've moved on from speculative science.
I hope so. That, well, that's the other problem. It's still doing it though. Carbon sequestration isn't a known science by any means, and
It's at least
more important,
researchable.
yes. But here's and this is where the problem really lies, and that I was getting to, where they're doing all this sequestration to save the world, right? What they're not talking about is what they're really using. Because I would say they say they say I think it was under 20% of sequestered carbon actually makes it back to this process. But what they're using captured CO2 for isn't to sequester, to actually use to recover more oil. I think it's like 15 to 22% more oil um, in the oil wells they're using it in, and that stuff isn't
It also
captured again.
seems absolutely. It also seems like they're focused largely on businesses, and this is my gripe largely with the way that climate legislation has been implemented, is through sort of market-based incentives. Um, the kind of idea of targeting businesses is like, well, you are the largest polluters. Um, if we can change how you act, then we can start to address this. But the way that it's implemented is through like carbon credit systems where they still pollute, but then they pay David Keefe on the side at Carbon Engineering to sequester X amount of carbon so that they can report that as
Yeah, and
moving
that's
towards net zero.
and
And so it
that's
doesn't solve
how
any of the production problems.
exactly, and that's what they're giving to the people. That's what they. That's when everyone hears about how so and so company lowered their emission standards to a more of an acceptable amount. All they've really done is add machines, and those machines say, yeah, they're using less, but what they're using beyond that isn't reported at all. What is it? NPR, the big energy oil company in the United States. I talked about this years ago. They got like a $19 billion subsidy grant or something like that for to use the carbon capture machines and stuff. And then the following year reported double in sales, where they were
Yep.
using their sequestered carbon to produce more oil, and it boosted up barrel production. It was like, what the f?
It's really funny watching um, companies like Shell be the number one advertisers of look how green we are.
Yes, and that's the crazy part because in the early '80s, a lot of people don't know this. In the early '80s, um, a lot of Shell, the report I saw was from Shell, but they were reporting that if emission standards weren't dealt with better, regulations dealt with better, in this current time, we would have a severe issue climate wise. And these were the oil companies reporting this stuff. It was the governments that put those things under wraps and started not allowing them to report for themselves, but to have their own government agencies do the reporting. A big report's
I
called like the
believe that was Exxon.
no, it was Shell. Let's find out. I don't. We don't need
I
to
can
do
send you
this,
the link.
asshole. Please do. Like a fucking grown man. So, how old are you now? Jeez,
I'm in college now.
fucking a. I'm just getting older now.
There's your link.
There is another one.
I don't doubt that Shell also had debt at that time. Their researchers are
But
pretty good.
it's it's almost odd how honest those their reports were compared to what they are now. Nowadays, it's very sugar coated. Sounds almost like you were just talking about the carbon credits. Another aspect of that, and we start talking like country wise, is the aspect of where they can sell and trade those carbon credits.
Yep.
That to me was the craziest thing in the world when I found out about that. It was like
Uh,
you guys were only allowed to use this much, but you guys can go ahead and buy some more, but still be under. But you're
a bunch of
wow.
countries did that with electric vehicle production too. They started putting like quotas and then fines if you didn't meet those quotas. And but what they allowed was for companies like Tesla who didn't have to meet the quotas to just sell all their extra credits
Yep.
because they're not producing any gas cars. So they would just
Yep.
sell all their credits to all the gas producing cars, effectively crushing the competition because now they're not producing competitive electric vehicles. Um, and allowing them to keep producing gas or internal combustion. Pickles.
That said, there are countries without that don't even have power for ways to power their countries. Like they borrow power, basically, they buy it. They even get credits. How does that work? What the fuck? Like, I saw
I
like
found
there's
Shell.
yeah. I think the one I saw was Shell, but I can only imagine because I'm just glancing through the Exxon one, and it's ridiculous how I don't know. They just it's very clear that one side of this argument is fluffing it a fucking lot. Almost no honesty in it anymore. Yeah, here's an article that talks about using and I gotta get back to the channel on my computer because I'm using two computers because I don't have a computer room yet. Oh yeah, so I moved to Texas, got a house, and now I'm in my living room because my computer room isn't ready yet. So I have to use
How are
my.
you liking Texas?
I love it. Uh, Less crowded, cost of living is more reasonable, and not around a bunch of assholes anymore. Yeah, but I've been here for almost about 4 years now.
Exciting. I've had to drive for a couple times. It's quite the trek.
This link, not gonna actually put the links in the chat. Talks about the this is a government article or a source, blah 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 source. There we go. That talks about using carbon to produce more oil. And that's the weird part. These are all just like in lieu of fucking talking about getting rid of fossil fuels and going to and the push for renewables. So weird. Yeah, because when I was looking at this one, it talks about the amount of oil produced out of a well using it, how much carbon dioxide is was sequestered for the process, but it doesn't get into detail. Like that's the biggest problem I have with these articles. When you read them, it gives you numbers that make it look so grandioso, but they don't show you comparison numbers. They don't give you the realization of what they're doing. Like one of the biggest, like carbon dioxide doesn't even freaking go into the atmosphere like that. But it in this article, it's promoted like it does. So weird.
It's very speculative too. Could be stored.
But we know they are. That's the worst part about it. Here's a good one. The National Petroleum Council Federal Advisory Committee proposed a roadmap to help the United States store about zero point 0.5 gigatons of human produced carbon dioxide in geological formations annually. And this work shows the potential to store a total of 14 to 19 times that enough enhanced oil recovery alone. So they're literally talking about sequestering zero point 0.5 gigatons of carbon dioxide from for sequestration, and that alone would raise 14 to 19 times the amount of oil they could recover.
Well,
And
they
that's
got
what
to
they're
make it
doing with it.
profitable somehow.
But but again, how do you promote sequestration to get rid of when in reality it's to produce more fossil fuels?
It's the
Remember,
question of the
remember,
century.
remember, we're supposed to be going backwards. We're supposed to be going for push for renewables and away from fossil fuels. It looks to me like all the solutions we're using to solve climate change are just ways to make more money before shit hits the fan.
Yep. And the same thing in the 80s.
What was it? The 70s. I was thinking the London Protocol, but I think that was the late 70s. Toronto Protocol. That it is. Toronto Protocol. That was the Freon thing and all the other good stuff that came with it. I think the actual only thing that I've ever really read that had a significant effect in our atmosphere, like actually watched about the ozone layer repairing itself once we stopped using that stuff, Freon stuff, whatever the
Yep.
fuck. I forget the exact name of it. Different type of Freon.
Refrigerants generally.
Yeah.
I think they were a certain type of hydrocarbon that bonded to ozone and drug it out of the air.
And and for all the people that are like, this is just realization. We need to stop playing the we can control game and start adapting. And sequestering carbon to produce more oil is a wonderful way of adapting. Just be honest about it.
Yep.
This is definitely. I can't see any reason. Just imagine if they were like, okay, we really want to save it. We don't want to make money. So we're going to capture as much carbon as we can. So they're going to put trillions and trillions of tons of carbon dioxide back into Earth. Don't have a way to stop to plug it for sure. And you think that's going to solve it? Nope, that's not even close to a solution. But if you kept it real and we're like, we're going to capture all the CO2 so it's all not in the atmosphere by itself doing nothing, but we have a way to produce more using that waste. That's how you're supposed to say it. That's honest.
Well, I mean, they spelled it out in the 80s. They're not interested in conferring to the public their intentions, only their.
Well, the problem is that was the honest way of about going about it because now they're propaganding the fuck out of it. One was a actual report. Now the stuff we get now is we don't want to tell you the dangers. Just think we assume we're doing right for you because they don't talk about it. But what's Trump opened up drilling sites. Biden opened up drilling sites. Like they're not trying to get away from fossil fuel. Don't get the BS that they are, and the people that go along with it. Doesn't make very much. And that was why I wanted to talk about because places like Australia, I know Europe, and other places like areas in the United States where I do know for a fact they are doing geoengineering projects. I think the biggest one that I know of is cloud brightening. Um, I call it low scale solar radiation management. I know they're doing those a lot.
Why don't they just paint all the roofs white?
Because they can't decide if they're supposed to paint them white or blue now. I mean, just
it's this might be tangential, but there's also cultural impacts to forging ahead on these projects. For example, a lot of the proposed drilling operations uh, up in the Arctic. I'm blanking on the name of a state right now. This has never happened. Alaska. Um, a lot of the proposed sites up in Alaska um, propose like using indigenous villages as like waypoints for cutting roads in, such that they'll go through and basically bulldoze through the village, set it up as like a waypoint refueling station.
Was it cut 10 miles?
Yeah, and then forge on ahead. So it has a severe cultural impact on the people occupying those spaces already as they seek to kind of get their oil, manifest their destiny in the oil fields.
More oil. Let's fix the solution. More oil. That's I haven't seen like I've thought about this a few times. Like when you think about what renewables are, um, in the real world, all renewables do are make it so we use less fossil fuels. It's a great piggyback. It helps take the all the burden off of fossil fuel. That's it. That is it. It can't replace it. We don't have a place on Earth that is reliable enough to replace it.
Well, it's interesting seeing all the tools they've used, like liquefied natural gas. When that came out, touted it as the big like oil replacement. It's like you are fracking this out of the ground, creating earthquakes and releasing methane. How is this any better?
And never producing enough. And here's the big problem: uh, can't produce enough to store. Can't store it. Renewables aren't good for any of that. I haven't. Is there a situation where you can? Because even like you think solar, you don't have enough. We don't have the battery technology truly store enough energy for it to be the end of fossil fuel.
Yeah, storage tech has always been one of the big kind of hurdles, and a lot of that is looking towards solutions like reservoir storage, so using gravity as a battery. Um, Pump up the water at low demand hours and then release it through a dam, and then you solve the like turbine problem, because one of the problems with um, solar is dealing with peak loads, because spinning up a turbine, that turbine has a lot of inertia that can kind of handle those fluctuations. So a lot of battery or like reservoir storage aims to solve a lot of that, but it's still not nearly enough. And there's not a lot of attempts to scale it because it's just not profitable.
I think. I think. Pretty sure Australia is probably the leading place right now at basically putting all their money to it. But that's also a country that like the continent that like literally has the sun all the time of its year and it can utilize solar. That's not everywhere. So solar can't be a one off. And in the example you did, it's still only piggybacking. Still need
Yep.
fossil fuels to do that. And that's again, that is my only gripe with this whole situation. I get that they need ideas, and I get that some of those ideas are going to be far fetched, and some of those ideas are going to be the best ever, but not helpful for now. Um, it's just the stuff that they're putting out. It's too much bullshit involved in it. It's too much. We're going to give you what you need to make the decision rather than here's information, decide if you think it's good or bad.
There's and it's a shame that because energy production's only going or energy demand is only going up. Um, like one of the best solution would be to try and minimize our use so that we can like create more efficient buildings, create more efficient structures so that we can lower our use, lower our dependence, so that we can rely on renewables to a greater degree and only need fossil fuels as sort of a backup. Um, but for example, the new uh, over the new like forging ahead into cloud computing and moving everything off of devices into because they need that extra processing power for all the artificial intelligence processing. That's resulting in like the creation of giant data centers, and a lot of what they do is when they go out they look, am I near a power station, am I near a coal plant, a nuclear plant, can I ensure that this location has reliable power. And so as long as those incentives stay in place for that large scale energy production, there'll still be incentives for oil and gas.
And and the biggest thing that runs off of us.
Yep.
I love my gas powered vehicle. I don't want to give it up. And a lot of people don't. No one wants to give up their computer. Again, that's the problem. We've seen the advantages to happiness and having some substantial things that we really don't need, but we want. We're not going to give it up. So what do? You adapt. Stop trying to change things. Just not. That's a bad way of saying it. Stop trying to force change things and just adapt. But then again, they could know that an asteroid's going to hit and they don't want to tell us.
Well, the U.S. has committed to asteroid defense, so
Yeah, I mean,
we have that at least.
would they tell? I don't think they would tell us. I actually, I hope they wouldn't tell us. Why? Tell us, tell us when you saved all our lives, and when you didn't, we'll know.
I think that would be pretty hard to hide just because of the amount of like eyes on the sky
Yeah, but
and the amount of countries with eyes on the sky and the amount of like hobbyists with eyes on the sky.
I think you set them up pretty cool. Don't those aren't those the same ones like they see an asteroid and they report it to somebody?
Yeah, but there's it would be pretty hard to because they project like you can project several months, years in advance when an asteroid is going to come close to Earth, and all that data is out there.
Well, those are because they're known, aren't they? Isn't that how it works? Like any of the ones that do get close, don't worry about because we've been watching them. Real worry is one that we don't see. That's the one that could be on a straight path to us.
I suppose it would be difficult to not catch it though.
Well, what was that one thing, object that came in and shot back out? And that was small, right?
Oumuamua.
Yeah, wasn't that small comparison to we're talking like these asteroids that can take us out?
Yes, yeah, that was about the size of a few football pitches.
So, I mean, so it would have done some significant damage still. A third of summer would have been gone. It, and that came out of nowhere, right? no clue that was coming. Just bam, what the oh shit. Like that is I think that's more likely what will happen than us seeing something and knowing it's going to happen.
Yeah, the smaller ones are less of a risk because we have, thankfully, an atmosphere to burn them up. Um,
Have you been in the flat Earth discussion?
I didn't know it was really still continuing. It kind of dropped off.
I did. You know what? I feel bad because like there's a lot of people that have been like, yeah, I haven't. I just you stopped streaming and I just stopped hearing about flat Earth and everything. it's, it's like, hey guys, I'm back. Have you talked about flat Earth? That's good. Good. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed at all. It's just some of the faces. They're still as boring. So I don't know if anybody else that's listening would love this or not, but I would love to get Witsit and Barney. You know who Witsit is, right? I'm pretty sure you do. I didn't know.
I've heard of Barney. I'm unfamiliar with what's it.
You know who Barney is? The guy used to be on my stream all the time.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure who it's.
He's what you would call the predominant flat earther of the time, right? So,
Ah,
so he's a very good wordsmith. He could sell water to a whale.
I mean that's what's required.
But and it's literally the same thing now. Everything's on Discord, not so much on and then just so weird that I had to come back. I was like, I some of the discussions I can't even keep like a like my attention to it to get so bad. I was just like, F it. I'd rather just be able to rant on my own panels. Because, like I said, I'm able to do a lot more things now that I'm in Texas because I'm actually close to where they launch. Not close, but close enough to where they launch that I could actually get there in a reasonable amount of time, be worth doing. Um, for 3 years that I was here, I lived on a private airfield. So I actually know some guys that are involved in cloud seeding. So like I'm gonna do a bunch of interviews with them. Uh, cross my fingers, try to go up when they. That wasn't promised to me. No way. So I don't know if that's really gonna happen. It's gonna be fun. I have a lot more planned for this round of streaming. Um, when it comes to real advertisers, I got a couple of people that I want to help out, and I think the live stream will help them out and stuff like that. So it's gonna be a fun go around, especially once I actually get everything set up. Like I said, I have a very basic setup with a crap computer and my good computer, my living room. Once I get my monitors, everything set up, so much better and actually do what I want to be doing for long periods of time. Because I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but my energy's gone down because I'm about to end anyway.
Well, it was nice catching up. It'll be interesting to see if you can, because like Texas, it's all on their website exactly what they're doing.
Yep. But it's on their website, but you know me, man. I think there's always more to what
Yep.
they just say. So
It'll be
wanna see
super interesting watching you show us those projects.
It'll be fun. Um, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. Fucking A, man. Thank you for coming on my panel. Thank you for fucking growing up. Jesus Christ. Not gonna lie to you, man. It's so much pleasurable to talk to you. You sound like
Took a
an
while, but I got
adult.
there.
You sound like a goddamn adult. Hey, and for everyone that that may remember Sasha from back in the day, we didn't have to deal with the cracky voice part. We didn't deal with that. We had to skip it. He went straight from kid to fucking adult. It's crazy. But again, I'm happy you're here, man. I hope you come back and hang out some more when we do the streams. I'm gonna, like I said, It's not gonna be an everyday thing. Sure as hell isn't gonna be like it was right away, but we'll build up to it. We'll see what we can get.
Yeah, do what you can. I'll try and catch some of it. I'm not
Sounds
too
good.
busy.
Now that you're in college, I was in college. So weird. I'm gonna have to bring up some of the old live streams that you were on, just so you could hear yourself from back then. No one's gonna think you're a girl now, buddy. Those were the days. All right, I'm just gonna start ranting and talking shit, so I'm gonna get out of here.
All right. Have a good one,
Thank you,
Sean.
sir. You too, man. All right, people. Like I said, I'm gonna get out of here. Like I said, I wanted to make it blah 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 blah. I wanted to make it specifically about the carbon capturing and everything, geoengineering stuff. Uh, Kind of petered off into other things, but hey, it happens. I do appreciate you guys being here and listening to this one because I know it's not the whole flat Earth drama thing, but there are a lot of important things out there that are much, much more important than that crap. But we'll talk about it some more. I'm going to get some things going. What I really am trying to do is trying to get either SE Montreal or Brian Leakey over here to have a conversation. I wanted to talk about on the next stream. I want to talk about the James Webb Telescope and things it has quote unquote changed in our understanding of how things work and what we've used in place of to come to the conclusions that we have about our universe and things we know. I had a conversation earlier about it. I think it'd be a good one, so I'm going to talk to him about that because um, one of the things we did talk about is the the three different conversations that are being had about James Webb. Obviously, Montreal is coming from one side where he claims not to believe any of it, but wants to use it. Then there's the side of the average Glober who says it doesn't change any of that, and it's gold, which is wrong, right? And then there's a realization that it's physics, science. It's gonna change. We knew it could change. Matter of fact, they knew it was gonna change. They knew it would change. It would put things upside down because they put so much money in technology and the projected goals were to change things. It's not brand new. It's not new. It's what I want to talk about for the next stream. It will probably be definitely like space, flat Earth, indulgent. Yes, I don't know what you would say for that, but we'll get some things going. What did I say? Monday, so Tuesday. I know I'll be live tomorrow, so make sure you guys share this, and we'll get a good panel going and get more into it. I'd like to thank Sasha again for coming back on. Fucking anybody who's been here a long time, remember Sasha? Sure as hell didn't sound the same, but sounds like a grown damn man now. It's fucking crazy. Listening to him grow up. But I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here before I start doing that weird ranting thing where I don't stop. Okay. Oh, make sure you guys, if you guys want to have more discussions about any of this crap, head over to ummmmm, this little mass media Discord server. The link's in the chat. He sets up, boy Demon Stride, he sets up debates, the ongoing conversation all day. More importantly, it's not the crap where it's insult, insult, insult. It's just back and forth shit. I know he's gotten a lot of bad light, but from just think about where you're getting that information from because it is a good spot and it's up and coming. It's kept itself around for a while, so let's support it and help it out. Go ahead and join that and join the conversation. If you haven't yet, go ahead and join the Bunker. The Bunker is my Discord server. On the days that I don't want to do this Google Meets thing, I will be doing it from Discord. I think Discord is probably going to be the place I do it from tomorrow. That way, it's easier to get on. It's easier to listen if you don't want to talk, but still be there and not have to be stuck on the YouTube to do it. So just know that. Go ahead and join the bunker. It's probably going to take me a second to get you verified because I'm not on it right this second. But by the time the next stream comes, you will be verified and ready to go, be on the streams if you want to be. With that being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Go ahead and pull up the outro. And I'll talk to you guys either in Discord later on, or I will talk to you guys on here tomorrow. Peace.
If it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong. And that simple statement is the key to science. It doesn't make a difference how beautiful your guess is. It doesn't make a difference how smart you are who made the guess or what his name is. If it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong.
Yeah, look, they said that I couldn't do it, so I went and did it. W's only, you know I've been winning. Top of the world, the globe is spinning. If you know, you know I've been on a what? Mission. Go. Okay, let's get it. Got a little time on my hands like a wristwatch. I don't got time for the brakes and the pit stop. Race through the gridlock, take it like Chris Rock. Right to the chin, still win. Heavy metals like Slipknot. Got the driving, I got tunnel vision. I just hit my stride the way I run the business. I've been making paper like I'm Dunder Mifflin. See the end game, I got one division. Look, I don't ever bother with a critic. Hit him with a chronicle of Riddick. Boom, bottle full of riddle, and I hit him with a little bit of riddle me this, riddle me that. My bad, fell asleep at the gas. No time to wait though. Elon Musk, I'm trying to bankroll. New Tesla just cause I say so. Electric whip like Ivan Van Gogh. I just did it. W's only, you know I've been winning. Top of the world, the globe is spinning. If you know, you know I've been on a mission. Okay, let's get it.
I've been on a mission like totally spice. I'm bad is she bad, but she totally nice. Nails are blue and her toes feel like white. They cumpli niet met jou, dat is zo voor mijn